So there's a extensive cleanup going on now, obviously down in Florida. 12 million, I've seen reports of up to 12 million people have lost power, maybe closer to 10. I don't know. That power hopefully is starting to come back a little bit. And Houston, in the wake of the flooding there, and of course, there are islands in the Caribbean completely destroyed. And I think, it's possible we are a day or two away from some really horrific sort of disastrous situations there as people are lacking food and clean water. And of course, depending on the countries there's the U.S. Virgin Islands, there's, I think, the British Virgin Islands, they have French. So there's just a tremendous amount of difficulty amongst, some of those Caribbean islands. Some parts of Florida, it appears that they dodged a bullet, or at the very least, maybe dodged the bullet, ended up getting hit with a baseball bat. Better than getting shot with a bullet, I guess. And we'll talk about what's going on in Houston, apparently. New York Times checked out 2 different Houston neighborhoods, and the bacteria and toxins that, as a function of sewer overflow, like in people's houses, is off the charts. So be very careful if you're heading back into those areas. I mean, I don't know how many people who have been driven out of, let's say, Houston have time to listen to podcasts at this point, but really devastating. And listen to, this is Donald Trump's, or I should say the Homeland Security Advisor, Tom Bossert, right? And he's responding to a question from CNN's Jim Acosta about climate change. Now, on one hand, I can understand the idea that, like, okay, we have a narrow portfolio. We're dealing with that right now. But the idea that seeing a window into our future, like we have seen over the past 2 or 3 weeks, with the flooding in Houston and the devastation in the state of Florida, we're basically getting a glimpse into our future. And frankly, I don't know if it's one that we can mitigate or not. But, I spoke to Michael Mann on the Ring of Fire last week, and he said, look, this is going to be something where when we talk about these 1 in 500 year storms, 1 in 100 year storms, we could be talking a 1 in 2 year storm, where the frequency of these things start happening exponentially faster. And so the idea that we wouldn't contemplate what's causing it is sort of shocking. I get there's a portfolio, but here is Homeland Security Advisor Tom Bossert answering a question about climate change in the light of what we've experienced in this country for the past 3 or 4 weeks.
Sponsor, the previous administration saw a connection between climate change and Homeland Security, and that the frequency and intensity of powerful storms like Harvey and Irma could pose a problem for future administrations. You could have FEMA budgets that can't keep up with the demand when you have powerful storms hitting the country. Is that something that you think this administration should take a look at? We know the president pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. Are these storms giving this administration some pause when it comes to the issue of climate change and Homeland Security?
I was here in the 2004 cycle of hurricanes, 4 and 6 weeks that hit Florida. I think what's prudent for us right now is to make sure that those response capabilities are there. Causality is something outside of my ability to analyze right now. I will tell you that we continue to take seriously the climate change, not the cause of it, but the things that we observe. And so there's rising floodwaters, I think 1 inch every 10 years in Tampa, things that would require prudent mitigation measures. And what I said from the podium the other day and what President Trump remains committed to is making sure that federal dollars aren't used to rebuild things that will be in harm's way later or that won't be hardened against the future predictable floods that we see. And that has to do with engineering analysis and changing conditions along eroding shorelines, but also in inland water and flood control projects.
So what he's saying there is that, well, we're going to react to things that we observe. We see rising sea levels. We're going to not build that. We're not going to help rebuild in an area that may be in jeopardy. But we're going to pretend like it was the sun god that did this, or we're just going to say that we're not even going to go that far and to label it like that it was God. It just happens. It's just happening. I mean, this is just absurd. This is absurd policy. We would never do this anywhere. We don't go around. We have agencies. I mean, the fire department sends out regulators and says, hey, there's an obvious fire problem here. Matt would say this is like the 1800s and
or like I think 1666 was a London fire, as if they're just like, let's just continue building roofs with straw and cooking with fat.
Hello, what's this now? I want to go and encourage people to have an open flame in their home. The thatch roofs. Who knows? We just respond to what happens. Don't think about what the connection is between the fire and the thatch roof. Just look at the embers and say, hey, maybe we should extend the ceilings a little bit higher.
It's an extension of Trump. That's how he responds to any real life situation. Just respond in the moment, and the larger context doesn't matter.
I don't understand how the guy can stand up there, right? And just with a straight face say, like, we're just going to things show up, we're going to react in that way. We're not going to even contemplate the cause of these things. Just is what it is. Department of Homeland, it is what it is. That's just crazy. Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos